LD, it's your boy Big Sif. So what I want to talk about right now is defensive penetration a little bit. Who I think you could benefit from having it on, and who I think you should kind of steer away from having it on. So first and foremost, I want to talk about what Netmarble says about defensive penetration. Cap is 50%. The conversion rate is 100 points equals 1 point for the proc bonus buff, basically. Um, Defensive penetration also affects your elemental damage. It mentions nothing else in here about it getting through defenses, being used for additional damage on top of critical damage, all the other stuff you've heard. So I'm going to go by what Netmarble has told me, and they've told me specifically defensive penetration affects your elemental damage. You can take the word also out of here because the sentence is placed in the middle of a paragraph where they talk about no other areas. So basically, blah 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 blah, and oh, by the way, D-Pen affects elemental damage. So this is what I'm taking from Netmarble. With that being said, let's see where it applies. So you have some tunes that I would advise staying away from putting elemental damage on, such as Groot. You really need a skill cooldown for his spores. Ronan, he has one attack that involves elementals. Mind, if it even is elemental. Ultron has one lightning skill. Venom has one mind skill. Malekith is mind as well. So, with those, what do we got here? 5 tunes. You can kind of steer away from elemental damage, even though they do have elementals kind of built in there a little bit. I don't think it's necessary. However, take a look at Thor. Full lightning right down the gauntlet. All of his damage is putting out lightning. Defensive penetration is a good move here on Thor. Another tune that I highly recommend, particularly and almost only if you have your skill cooldown maxed out, is to throw it on Loki. A lot of the beasts or other fights where you're kiting around, you stop, you throw something out there. Septibolt runs on cold. Astral Projection with a monster skill runs on cold. So I think these two can give you a really good bang for your buck. If you already have your skill cooldown capped out, I'd throw them on there. Black Widow, Cup to Grace, for those who play Black Widow in Alliance Battle. Really take a look at your critical damage, your critical rate, see where it lies. If it's in a comfortable spot, everything else looks pretty good in the tune, and then by all means, lightning damage, Widow's Bite, it stuns. It's also got a beast tier on it. 174, 1094 is really beast tier. And then you got the pulsing shock. It's really nice. Anyhow, Cup to Grace, which is your spam 6-star skill, right? I mean, it doesn't tier well, but anybody who uses it knows it's a badass skill. Lightning damage. Yeah, go with it. Not a bad move. Goblin, both uniforms. Well, uniform and classic. Uniform is all fire, classic's all poison. Not a bad move. Lincoln Campbell, same as Thor, pretty much lightning. Right down the gauntlet of skills. You can't go wrong, in my opinion, putting defensive penetration on Lincoln Campbell. Absolutely go a long way, just like it will on the other ones. Completely beast it up with lightning. I think it's a good move. Ghost Rider, all fire. It'll work on Ghost Rider. Angela's kind of a weird spot with Angela. She tears a ton of damage. So whoever's kind of living and dying by something right now, you might be willing to argue, which is fine. But I think if she's got a uni on, she's putting out all this fire, then I think it would be highly beneficial if you threw fire on her, well, rather if you threw defensive penetration on her here. I mean, right now I got crit damage. Haven't shown her much love. I'm not really focused on Angela at the moment. But all fire, right down the line. Angela's kind of up to you. MODOK is a 50-50. He's got a couple of skills that are he's got one physical, one energy, and then a couple of mind. Blah blah. Is mind even an elemental? I wouldn't be too concerned with MODOK. Whether you go defensive pen, you go other directions until they give him some love. I don't think it's a big deal. Red Hulk is all fire. I would highly recommend it with Red Hulk, particularly for those who are more experienced with him, know what his strong suits are, but his skills are all fire straight down. Jane Foster, lightning. Once you get past her, a couple of physical here, it's all lightning. You know, she's probably a good candidate for defensive penetration as well. And last but not least, well, maybe least as well, is Nebula. Nebula's complete lightning damage all the way down. So those are my recommendations. I would say no to Groot, Ronin, Ultron, Venom, Malekith. I would say yes to Thor, Loki, BW, Goblin, Lincoln, Ghost, Angela, Red Hulk, Jane Foster, and Nebula. So if you're kind of figuring out, do I want to go, crit rate, crit damage, skill cooldown, or defensive penetration, ask yourself, is it one of these tunes? Is it based on elemental damage? How does your crit rate look? How does your cycle speed look? How's your crit damage? Some of these tunes, they're a little bit deceiving. You look at the stat, it doesn't say a whole lot, but then you actually see what they do on the field, and for some reason it just turns out to be an absolute monster. So that's what you got from me. LD, D-Pen, Sif, my 2 cents. Y'all have a good one out there. Alright, so into our second segment here, and this time around we're talking about cooldown. Cooldown, theory is it's 168 to 1 ratio. I've tested it plenty of times. I personally believe it's a 100 to 1 ratio with a cap of 50%. So, I believe 101 ratio, cap of 50%. Others will tell you it's 168 to 1 ratio, cap of 50%. To be honest with you, I go with the 100 to 1, in my opinion. Yeah. So, some tunes that are important to have cooldown on. Summoners, anything that's summoning, anything that's throwing up, clones or throwing up phantoms, phases, whatever you guys want to call them. So, Grim, she summons. Probably a good idea to have them on her. You can have them on permanently. Loki, it's a must to have a cooldown on Loki. Permaclones, permashield. Kingpin, it's almost a must to have it on Kingpin. You really need to get those minions out. Do what you gotta do. Get those minions out. Do what you gotta do. Groot, you need to be able to heal. So you need the spore to be up as much as possible. 40 seconds is a long time. To cut that down 50%. Cooldown rate is pretty good. I don't think you can necessarily get it to 50. Let's see what his pass was at. 488 here. Suit not maxed out, obviously, but unless you get it somewhere over 1,000, it'll be tough. With the cards, you can probably get it, but nonetheless, you really need to get those heals up. I like Carnage because of his skills that heal. I think it's important to have it on Carnage, particularly if you're using it for some of those AB runs, stuff like that. As well as for the world bosses, you really need to be able to get his. You really need to be able to get his skills out. You really need to get him healing with his camouflage strike. So, reiterate, skill cooldown. You really want it on your healing classes. You want it on your shade classes or your clone classes or your minion classes. Kingpin, Loki, Grim, the likes. And you want it on your really big hitters. And this is a conversation I had with our man Mick Dog. If you got that one skill that's got a really long cooldown, but you're just running that tune through like a cycle, like an AB, not necessarily AB, but world bosses, where you tag it in, you run a skill, run another skill, and you tag it out. New tune, run a skill, run another skill, tag it out, and that tune is useless everywhere else in the game. Then not bad to have skill cooldown on there, because you only bring that tune in just to serve one purpose, and then you're tagging them out. He did mention Werewolf's buff, so Werewolf's buff. If you're only tagging a Werewolf to get his buff and then tagging him out, well, you might want that buff up sooner rather than later. You got a tune, as he had mentioned, like Daisy, where the buff is on, the skill's on a 10-second cooldown. Well, you're tagging a tune in, running a couple things, tagging another tune in, running a couple things, then tagging that tune in. Daisy, running a couple things. Well, by the time you get to that tune, that might be off of cooldown, so it might not benefit you to put in, skill cooldown. So skill cooldown, realistically, it's for tunes that you absolutely need to get things off as soon as possible. You absolutely need to get the clones out. You absolutely need to get the heal off. You absolutely need to get the buff up. Then skill cooldown's the way to go. If it's a tune that you're not, if it's a tune you're looking to put, that one big skill out with big damage, absolutely go skill cooldown. Thank you all, and I'll get you to the next segment in just a moment. This segment here, I'm going to focus on a few things because I think we can tie it all into one. We're going to focus on crit rate, crit damage, dodge versus HP, and attack speed. So I'm just going to bring up a tune. I'll just bring up World War Hulk. We've already gone over him plenty in the past, so we've got a pretty good idea as to what's happening here. So taking a look at information, details, crit rate, crit damage, attack speed. It's kind of all in here. HP's in here as well, dodge is in here as well. Thinking about your crit rate, caps out at 75%. Crit damage caps out at 200. Pretty tough to get those caps without really pushing the tune heavy and having some of that built right into the suit appropriately. Thinking of that, we have to keep in mind the crit rate is a variable. So let's say we have our crit rate at 50%. So 50% of the time, when you say of the time, that means it's a variable. You're going to crit. Crit damage, however, is a constant. So 50% of the time, the variable, I will do X amount for my crit damage. So crit damage stays as is. Now, to choose whether you want to go to crit rate or crit damage on a tune, does the tune have elementals? If it does not have elementals, crit rate, crit damage, and slot floor is a good idea. Does the tune absolutely require healing? Does it require clones? Or does it have a really big hitting skill that's on cooldown for a really long time? If you take those three things out, crit rate, crit damage are probably for you. So, think about it this way. Clones? No. Consider crit rate, crit damage. Healing? No. Consider crit rate, crit damage. Big hitter that absolutely must get up in a cycle, like running in world bosses? No. Crit rate, crit damage is probably for you. So take that for what it's worth. Those are my opinions on crit rate, crit damage. Particularly if it's also building very heavy in the suit. There's your way to go. Now we'll talk about dodge. For dodge, we'll take a look at somebody I know is just fucking beefed on dodge. What the fuck is he? There we go, Mr. Spidey. So Spider-Man is pretty beefed on dodge. You got 56% here, and where it caps out is at 75%. So do I really want to get any higher on dodge? Well, dodge is a variable. 50% of the time I'll miss a hit. It doesn't sound right. 75% of the time I'll miss a hit. So 3 out of every 4 times I'm gonna miss. They're gonna miss me. Well, that certainly doesn't apply to world bosses. It's not gonna apply to the beast except for maybe his swipe. So what are you gonna do with dodge? I mean, it truly is a variable. Hit points, however, are not a variable. This is how many hit points you have. You're gonna get hit for X amount. X amount is gonna come off. You have this pool to die from. Okay, so variable versus a constant. Hit points, in my opinion, is the way to go. 95% of the time. I don't see a whole lot of use for dodge. Some will say, if your tune's really squishy, go with the dodge. Okay, well, if my tune's really squishy and I go with dodge, and I don't dodge, I'm going to get absolutely destroyed. But if my tune's really squishy and I go with some hit points, well, I might not get absolutely destroyed as fast. So maybe there's a fine balance there. Mick and I seem to both agree that going with hit point over dodge 90% of the time is the way to go. There's probably a few exceptions with a few different ISO sets. Some really high suit builds, I get it. Some really high passes, I get it. And then attack speed. Okay, a lot of people are saying attack speed speeds up animations. Attack speed speeds up the ability of your clones to attack faster and attack more. I tested it out on Coulson because I figured it'd be pretty cool, you know. Throw May out there, let him just punch people in the face wicked fast. Throw Captain America out there, let him just punch people in the face wicked fast. Alright, well, I don't know, that shit didn't seem to work for me. I was like, oh, fuck this. This isn't doing shit. Took it off, threw it in the fucking trash. And then you have other people. And then you have other people that be like, oh, attack speed's the best fucking thing since the remote control, and the best fucking thing since ice in the freezer that self-dispenses. Whatever, fuck them. I'm gonna tell you right now, I think attack speed's garbage. That's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. Attack speed might be the best thing since the remote control. So take it for what you want to take it as. So that's my input here. Rate, damage, dodge versus HP, and attack. Not a whole lot else to look at as far as gearing is concerned here, folks. The first slot we've already talked about before. You got to keep it simple. Defense, you got to keep it simple. Slot 3, going dodge versus HP. I pretty much explained that to you just now. Recovery rate. There are some circumstances where you want to use recovery rate. I mean, if you're really, I would say there's not a whole lot. A couple of situations, sure, but I'm not going to get into that. Listen, keep it simple with HP. And then for slot floor, we've gotten into it. Crit rate versus crit damage. Crit rate and damage versus, as I previously has explained in the video, skill cooldown, and as I previously had explained in the video in referring to defensive penetration. So this is my breakdown of slot 4 LD. Take it for what you want to take it for. Do what you want to do. I did my best to try to explain why you should make some decisions. This concludes this vid. Sif, LD, I'm out. See you out there.